Hey everybody, welcome back to another month in review podcast stream thing.
Wait a second. Go now.
Hi, this time it works. Welcome back to another month in review podcast stream. I'm Dan. Cameron is frantically adjusting dials and knobs so that we can not sound terrible. Looks like an echo problem.
Yep.
And our special guest for this month, joining us in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, probably as usual, is Maynard. Say hi.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thanks very
So,
much.
as always with these, we are going to be working through a variety of relatively similar topics. We're going to cover things that have gone down in EDH, games we've played that have been particularly notable, new cards. There's a lot of new cards. Maybe some interesting content pieces from the community, talk a little bit about events coming up, and then close with some random garbage. So, to kick things off, where do you want to start? Cameron, you want to start with some of our games from the last month?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a month in review for August, so it kind of makes a little sense to cover that as well. Vegas, 2019, baby. That was a blast. I mean,
yeah, it was wild.
There
was
were
so much going on.
Oh,
holy cow. I think we had probably, 60 to 80 people in the competitive EDH section the entire time?
Yeah. I know at the start of the day, it'd be like one table, but within an hour of the hall opening, we definitely had 5 pods going. And I think at the most, we had somewhere in the range of 20 to 25 pods all going at the same time at competitive. It was pretty awesome.
4-person pods. So, 20, 25 pods means 80 to 100 competitive EDH players in person in the same room, in the same 300 foot, 200 foot, I don't know numbers, area. That's wild to me. I'm used to maybe finding 2 pods simultaneously.
Oh,
yeah. SCGCon blew me away because we had 4, 5?
Mm-hmm. So, there was a specific lack of Maynard there, and I was a little sad.
Yeah. It is pretty crazy to hear about all the people that managed to make it out there. I wish I could have, but it sounds like it was a great time.
It really was.
Vegas was unique, and I'm glad that they're adding the command zone areas at future GPs, because typically when you're at a GP and you're just there to play Commander, you sit down, you might get through 3/4 of the game, and then you get booted. And then you get up and you walk around and you have to find more table space. And the kind of the plus side of that is you get to see a lot more of the GP, and you take care of yourself a little bit. You get some food or some water when you need it. This was just hey, I'm done with a pod, and you'd look up and you'd be like, oh, hey, there are 4 new people that want to play. Let's break this pod up and just shuffle it up a little bit. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah. But that's enough pontificating. Let's just go into some specifics. So for us, particularly as a channel, we got a lot of good networking, and we have recorded games with some people you may have heard of from the community called, what are they? The Spike Feeders, I think?
Yeah. Are you Jim from the Spike Feeders?
I am, yes, actually. I am in Canada right now. We also got in some games with the Playing with Power crew, Garrett and Ryan. Mm-hmm. We should have a video going up in their format. Yeah. Actually, for both those channels, we attempted to record videos in the style of that channel. So with our Spike Feeders recording, we in fact have a face cam thing for the first time. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna be trying to do that. Playing with Power is going to be chopped and narrated. And we also got, in true online fashion, a top-down game in with who are they? Big Brewers. Shaper, I think.
Yep.
Is his name, and Wedge from the Mana Source.
Not that Wedge. No, the other Wedge.
The Mana Source. The other one.
Yeah.
So those are going to be some fun videos to get going. And Cameron is going to be starting to look at getting that into content this weekend, I believe.
Yes, I've got time set aside for that. Life's
awesome.
busy, but yes.
Yeah.
It's good.
We also got a game in with Shivam. Cameron, do you want to talk a bit about that?
That was pretty cool. Shivam bought, if you don't know, Gearapore Gears on Twitter. He is one of the Commander Advisory Group folks. And
the CAG.
Yes, the CAG.
Likes to say.
I don't like to, but yes.
I like to say that. Yes. Just kidding.
They, Shivam had tweeted on probably, what was it, a month or so before Vegas that he wanted to know if anybody would have a Gitrog deck that he could try some cEDH with. And we specifically pulled a Gitrog deck. One of our patrons, Smurs, sent it to you. Awesome guy. And we got a full Gitrog deck. Dan, myself, and who was the fourth?
It was
it Wedge?
Alex.
Oh, it was Alex. Oh yeah, Suasion. The good old Suasion of Shimmer Zur fame.
The one and only.
Yes, and we all sat down with Shivam, and we got frogged. We legitimately got frogged out. What was pretty cool was we had a few frog players that were sitting next to him and kind of gave him hints, or like when he asked what should I be tutoring for, they helped him with that. But he legitimately won, and it was
slapped the shit out of us.
Yes, it was great.
It was rough.
Yeah, I mean, we actually, it was a really interactive game. I think we made it to like turn 7 or 8. Everybody was doing stuff, and he was just frog asking frog questions. So that was that was pretty good. I'm glad he didn't sit down with Cobble, because I don't, Maynard, I don't know if you've seen Cobble's Euroke deck at all.
Not familiar with that one.
So a really long time ago, he was working on Tatyova. And
I played against that. Yep.
Yeah, so think of Tatyova, but in its final form with black added. Like, it is brutal. We were on something probably like turn 20 to 25, and the most lands anyone but Cobble had in play was 2.
Jesus. I can just imagine a board full of like 100 permanents on Cobble's side.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like it's a fucking nightmare to play against because you legitimately have to spend removal on shit like Arboreal Grazer. Like, he kills you with Arboreal Grazer. That is a bulk common from War of the Spark.
When it ETBs, put a land from your hand into play tapped.
And it's disgusting. It kills you. It shouldn't be okay. Like, that's not okay. Yeah. But now I have a Japanese Arboreal Grazer that I'm like getting ready to start jamming with. Like, this is not how this format's supposed to work. And yet, like, I think Cobble actually like crushed it this time. That deck is wild.
And it just fought on so many different axes that you aren't ready to deal with. Like, Overburden plus Euroke is whenever you cast a spell. Oh no, whenever a creature enters play under your control, you return a land from play to your hand, and Euroke doubles that. And to top it off, Overburden's not affected by like Torpor Orb. If anybody was happy to use it, it's not an ETB. It's a separate effect. It's on its own. So like it hurt. It hurt a lot.
I feel like that's kind of like every Cobble deck where when it gets going, it really gets going, and you start questioning everything you know about what's good and what isn't.
And the sweet part about this deck is it's not like his Tatyova deck where it gets going on like turn 6.
No, this just like it's in the game.
Like, it's because it's bugged. Like, you play good cards for once. Like, he gets to play good cards in addition to the shit that like somehow comes together in these phenomenal Rube Goldberg machines that just nut all over us. Like, he gets to play Demonic Tutor for once. Yeah. Cobble with Demonic Tutor in his deck. Like, that's fucking scary.
Yeah.
But enough about all of our stuff in Vegas. Let's include Maynard. We always like to talk about games that we've locally played. So, Maynard, would you like to regale us with a story of a particularly impactful game that you played in the past month or 2, let's say?
Well, I've been playing a bit more PlayEDH recently. Shout out to that server.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to make Garage Me Control work, and it's been going all right sometimes. We got some fun games on Scotty's stream.
Mm-hmm.
One game I had recently, I was against Wedge, and I believe was it Raygon or someone else from the PlayEDH server who was playing Slur Food Chain, and Wedge was on Kess console, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Wedge had drawn like some absurd number of cards just with Remora and Mystic Study, and was just doing some really gross stuff. And then at the end, well, I guess cut it short. Raygon just dropped the Vexing Shusher, which was a problem because we were all relying on our counter spells to kind of stop anything from happening.
And you can't counter it, and it messes with
and
everything.
Then he played a Dockside Extortionist.
Oh, it's so good.
that card.
New card from C19.
It's so.
I think it must have done like 15 or 17 treasure tokens.
Oh.
And well, uncountable food chain. Even after tutoring removal against it, not much you can do.
Yeah.
You bounce it, they just recast it, right?
Yeah, that is clean. The infinite mana uncounterable protected kill.
Yeah.
I can dig it.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
It's a nice way to end a game where everyone's just kind of getting as many cards as they can and building up a pillow fort of counter spells to keep them safe.
And then just that one card that says "F you all, I'm red green, screw you."
Yeah, I've definitely lost to that before from Luke. It's pretty cool. How about you, Cameron?
Well, I started participating in a C19 league, which was just kind of like throw $20 at a C19 deck. That was pretty fun as casual stuff. But then we had I did play a game. Shout outs to the Brazilian cEDH crowd. There are a lot of really hardcore people there that really love the format. And one of the guys actually had moved to the Seattle area, and I got a game in with him, and he had it was what's the guy that it's the Dimir dude that exiles whenever you cast a blue or a black.
Dimir Lobotomist.
He had Scepter, and he did a turn 3 Doomsday after main phase bouncing my own Null Rod with a Cyclonic Rift.
That's aggressive.
And he almost got there. It was something like a 10-minute turn prior to Doomsday, and it was quite hilarious then trying to figure out the Doomsday pile with him, because he ended up having something like 10 mana rocks in play, but most of them were tapped, and he ended up not. And it was also after a terrible Adnaz. So he started the Doomsday at 5 life, and then Doomsdayed and went to 2, and made it so he couldn't get probe. And so all of the math on the Doomsday was wrong. So it was quite a challenge. And he ended up dying to a Beast Within token instead of blocking with his Lab Maniac and dying to an empty library.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems fine.
It was definitely a fun game. You got any?
Well, yeah, in the spirit of punts, let's talk about one particularly wild game I played. Shout outs to my Sanford playgroup. Tyler, one of our patrons, is down there. So this was a game with him and Nick and Rebel. We were playing an incredibly long, grindy game. I was on... It's basically Curious Control, just with, my own Dan Bad Cards spice. It was probably it was like hour 2. Turn X, it was really far into the game. It was far enough into the game that I had Ashiok, Narset, Karn, and Nicol Bolas God Pharaoh in play. Wait, yeah, whatever the 5-drop one is. Dragon God? Dragon
God's 5.
Dragon God in play. And I was playing around the sweetest line I'd come up with yet, where Nicol Bolas's ability copies other Planeswalker abilities. Someone had just played a Jace Maniac, so I was setting up a Notion Thief to steal your Git Probe draw, hold priority, and consult my library away. And it worked perfectly. I like top decked with a Thrasios activation, a misstep to counter the Spell Pierce or whatever it was, and like it was clean. I finished, I won, took it down, got in the car, headed home, got home, checked my texts, and they were like, "You cheated! Nicol Bolas, Dragon God, only copies loyalty abilities, not all abilities." So I punted away a game I had locked up for like 2 hours long because I didn't read the bad cards I was playing. I just played them.
So he did not have the Maniac ability.
No. No, he didn't.
And the best part about that is it's the you cheated and you learned after the fact, because then everybody's like, wait, what happened? I definitely had those. One game I was a casual game. I was playing 8.5 Tails, so mono white, and a guy swung at me with a Blood Baron of Viscopa, which has pro white and pro black. And then he killed me by casting Hatred on it.
Oh, that's cute. Not how that works.
Yeah, Hatred's black. So I learned that. I remember that one after the fact as well. Oh, geez.
Well, that's enough about local games. Yes. Cameron, I believe you were on a thing called a long car drive for many, many days with your trip to Vegas and some pictures you're posting. Do you want to chat very briefly, since that's not remotely Magic related, about your dope-ass road trip?
I'm just cycling through some photos here that I have that were probably the most memorable from the road trip. The Grand Canyon, if you've never been there, you really should go. It is something that makes you wonder about what you're doing in your life with how big everything is. I also stopped by the Monterey Bay Aquarium. The jellyfish there are crazy right now. They you never get to see them like that. What was this last one?
What constitutes a crazy jellyfish?
Are you looking at the stream at all? Let me see.
No.
Okay.
I can pull that thing up. How do I do this? Oh my goodness. Oh God, it's it's Maynard. I've never seen you before. Hi, Maynard.
Yeah. No, just they are right there in front of you. You see them in all of their boopy glory. They're moving around within like 6 inches of your face, and you're not going to get killed by them when they're, a mana war that will kill you in one sting.
That's so cool. Those are gorgeous.
Oh yeah. That whole thing was amazing. They also had some cuttlefish, and the one that was really crazy was that they had a bunch of Nautilus, which you don't see Nautilus live, really. A Nautilus shell.
That dude sucks in this patch, right?
The animal.
But there's an animal too?
Yes, yeah. Or if you've ever done math, the Nautilus shell, on polar coordinates, x equals, or what is it? X equals y or whatever, and it just keeps running.
You mean the Fibonacci spiral?
Yeah, that's the same thing. Just constantly going up. Yeah, that's named a Nautilus spiral after the Nautilus fish.
Does it taste good?
I don't know. I think they're endangered.
Oh, I don't want to eat them then. Don't eat endangered animals.
But yeah, no, it was a pretty awesome 2-week road trip, and it was well worth the time to hang out with family and enjoy some amazing things. Take some time to enjoy life. And I think
with that over, we're done enjoying life. Let's get back to Magic.
Yes, of course.
All right, let me check this box, check that box. Content and events over the last month. Let's talk about it. So, there was a set that came out called Magic Core 2020. It's been a minute since it came out. So, we've all had a chance to play with it, get a feel for it, remember what cards are in the set, and give it a try. How do you two think, starting with Maynard, M20 has affected the meta at all?
M20, huh? I barely remember that set.
So
this is cool.
Yeah. So you've got your big four. You've got Vilist, you've got Kakar, Veil of Summer, and your Roke. Those are the really big things out of it.
Kakar's sweet. There really haven't been a lot of blue-white-red commanders that you can play. Non-cEDH's actually, kind of slept on nowadays, but aside your selections were like Ishai Bruce, which is a deck I like quite a bit, but a little too goofy to play too often. But
I
Kygar,
like Ishai. That bird's cool.
Yeah, big bird.
Big bird for sure. So have you
But Kygar kind of gave blue-white-red a new option. I actually haven't. I kind of want to try the blue-white-red decks, but only so many things you can play.
Yeah. My biggest concern with Kygar is just that it's an enabler and it doesn't have any card advantage. And that's just kind of like my feel for the deck. I've played several decks that are like that, and it just, if you're going against Thrasios and Tymna all the time, you just get outground every single game, and it gets really frustrating.
But yeah, decks that lack, honestly, I think black, if they don't have a card advantage engine in the command zone, are going to have trouble. Black has like sort of the ability to supplement that. Cards like Night's Whisper and similar effects, while not typically played, aren't that bad. So you have the ability to recoup some card advantage. You also have, tutors for ad nauseum and stuff like that.
Necro.
That Jeskai lacks. So Black's card advantage can supplement lack of command zone card advantage, but it's still really difficult either way.
I don't know.
That's just one of the awkward things about blue-white-red, because you kind of have two colors that aren't great, and you got blue, which is good, but missing green kind of makes things not as smooth as they could. And you do lose some powerful card advantage engines, mostly Sylvan Library, but some other tools that green gives you, and then like you said, black for all the tutors and all the other things you can do with it.
Yeah, it's in a really tough spot, and especially if we can diverge from the schedule briefly to talk about one single Eldraine thing. So Maro had talked a while back about they're gonna add a bit to white for card advantage for Commander, but he had tried not to make it hyped. But knowing how everything works, it just got hyped because that's how Maro says anything ever works, apparently. We had today spoiled. God, I don't even remember what it's called. Into the Story? I don't know. It's the white enchantment that when it ETBs, everyone gains a 5 life and draws a card, and then if you do some nonsense,
happily ever after.
Yeah, happily ever after. And then you complete this absolute shenanigans bucket list of coalition victory level garbage, and you win the game. The everyone draws a card was the white thing that he was talking about. And that's rough. That's like a kick in the balls for a Commander player. Because that's not good.
That's an effect that's been on artifacts quite a bit, actually. Yeah. So it's not like white never had access to it. In fact, every color had access. Temple Bell, Otherworld Atlas.
Yeah.
You got some
Howling Mine.
They suck. They're bad. It's not that white got this one thing that it could have accessed before that's okay. It got this thing that it could access before that you don't play because it's bad. Actively detrimental to your game plan. So it's rough that that's where
so the kind of the idea would be is that it might be that they lean towards something like a Wheel of Fortune in white, and this is the intro to that, and that is something white doesn't have. And if white's card draw has to be symmetrical card draw, it's kind of, if it was just instead of everybody discard 7 and draw 7, if it was everybody draws 7 cards, and that's all that white can do for card draw, that might be what it has to accept.
I would love to see them put more Alms Collector type stuff into white instead of into blue-black, where it's kind of...
I agree.
Mind's Eye-esque effects feel very white and aren't strong enough that you can't put them on reasonably cost white permanents. Mind's Eye could trivially be one white enchantment. That seems fine to me. Still bad, but it's something.
It's great.
And Sir could fetch it. Not that Sir would want it, but either way. So anyway, M20. We have a couple of reasonably viable options in Yurok and in Kaikar, and Veil of Summer is gas as hell. Phyllis is a cool option for Reanimator. People are still toying with him.
I haven't seen one yet.
Where that ends up. Villas?
Yeah.
Oh,
I actually haven't
remind
seen
me to
one.
play a casual game and I'll smack you.
Well, no, I haven't seen one in CEDH. I've seen it in casual.
Oh, sure. That's fair.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, yeah. Golos came out that set. Golos is very blech, and he's already been obliviate. Wow, I'm doing hard words tonight. I can't speak. Golos is worse than Kenrith. Kenrith is still worse than Thrasios Tymna. Don't play Golos. There. That was what I was trying to get out.
All right. Let's move on. Ban list changes. Paradox Engine banned. Painter Servant unbanned. Let's start with the easy one. Have either of you seen a Painter Service in play?
In July.
Well, yes, we talked about
impacts of it.
Yes, because now
Painter Servant has been in nothing I've ever seen.
Maynard?
It's an Animar and Momir, but I haven't played against those recently.
Yeah, I really haven't seen them at all. So that was nice and easy.
Painter Servant didn't do a whole lot. Surprise.
So I threw this on here. I've been working on a Bray brew for a little while, and I wanted to bring it up just because it's looking at an interesting way of fighting challenges for a commander. So it's a Divergent Transformations Brea that goes for a World Gorger win. So the big thing about it is that it's using Divergent Transformations as an out in case there's something that's stopping any of your other win cons. And I don't know if either of you guys have looked at Divergent Transformations very much, but I think it is an option to make some of the commanders that are kind of a little less viable or out of favor due to excessive hate as a way of getting around that. So Brea is just destroyed by a Null Rod. She's destroyed by a Stony Silence, and she's also destroyed by a Curse Totem. And all of those are really great pieces of hate right now. I mean, a lot of decks can just splash them for the hell of it. But if you have some sort of win to instantly get around that, say a World Gorger loop that tutors your entire deck for you, that seems pretty decent in order to get around that, in order to bounce that, in order to go to like a Dramatic Scepter win, or to a Jace Maniac win. And it's just kind of the bit of brewing in order to get to that point took a little while to actually kind of think through what you were really wanting to do. And I think there might be a few more decks out there that could actually manage with that. I know either you guys have thoughts on that?
Yeah, what do you think, Maynard?
I think you kind of see that pretty popularly nowadays with the consultation packages and decks rather than World Gorger. World Gorger being a little kind of hard to turn on sometimes and risky to do. Whereas with the printing of Jace, Wielder of Mysteries back in War of the Spark, decks kind of got a clean 2-card combo in Jace Consult or Jace Tainted Pact.
Yeah,
and you also
plus Jace.
You also saw that, yeah. So before, I mean, you had Labman, right? Laboratory, but that was effectively a 3-card combo in a lot of decks. Even if you played Food Chain, which ran Labman kind of as a backup or as a free roll to get around certain hate pieces and stacks, you still needed to find a way to draw a card afterwards. And there's only a small number of cantrips in the deck, really. Preordain, Ponder, Brainstorm, So Jace, on the other hand, since he pluses and draws a card, is basically a 2-card combo. And there's not much that stops it in terms of hate. And it dodges like Abrupt Decay, whereas Labman never did.
Yeah, that part is real slick, by the way.
Yeah.
That comes up a lot.
So you see a lot of decks that, I mean, for example, Paradox, Scepter Thrasios, which lost Paradox, but then just started playing this consultation package. You'll see it in Zur, Kess, even like the Stormier Kess decks might start running it. Shimmer Zur tends to be on Tainted Pact now too. And Tainted Pact itself is just such a strong card.
I haven't seen a non-Tainted Pact mana base in a while.
Yeah. But especially with there's decreasing amounts of incentive to play anything less than 3 colors, which is a little sad to me, but
yeah, that's for sure.
if you're a deck that can kind of run Consult as a 2-card, like to fetch your main win condition too, like Najeela gets to run it to fetch, it's a Nature's Will or whatever. Or the new Kenrith deck can even run Consult to fetch part of its dramatic Scepter combo. You kind of just get to play this secondary win condition that's very slot efficient, gives you 2 tutors that are can go for your main win condition or your secondary win condition, and just this backup win con that gets through almost all the hate pieces, almost all the stacks, right?
No, that works. I hadn't kind of drawn that parallel before, but that does make a lot of sense. That it's essentially just the same thing in a 2-card win con. Okay.
Yeah, that's why the Consult package is like ubiquitous.
It's everywhere now. Yeah.
If you're playing and I'm not gonna say tier 1, but like good, like really good, the best decks, they all basically play Consult.
Yeah, minus like Hulk and Rasputin, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Flash Hulk has so many dead slots that, well, I guess it has less with Shuffle, but either way, it's just like, it's not that they don't want to run it necessarily, it's that it doesn't make as much sense in that deck because you already dodge a lot of that stuff.
And there is a Hulk build that does run,
Is there really? Oh, is that Sacred?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're doing essentially the same thing just with Hulk instead of a
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's cool.
Let's move on to talking about a win cons article and when you should play a win con-less deck versus something with a discrete win con.
Yeah. So part of talking about content is just pulling out things that are very useful. And Spleen Face.
Let me drop a link to that in chat for everyone.
Yeah. I've got it up.
This is the article we are referencing.
Yeah.
This Reddit post from Spleen.
Let's zoom in just a little bit so it's a little easier to read. But essentially, he's going over what, when, and why on how to consider running either a deck that has a dedicated win con like Aetherflux Reservoir versus a deck that is just looping with a Time Twister or some other means, and how you can loop and just ways of looking at that. And if you're not too familiar with the format as a whole, it's a really great read, well worth the time to go through, and you definitely would want to look at that. I don't know, did either of you guys read this before or no when it came out?
I didn't actually catch it when it came out, but I read through it once we put the schedule together, and I think it's a really good piece on the topic. I think it is a little less relevant in October 2019 than it would have been before the printing of Jace Maniac, just because the decision if you want to run Lab Maniac as a discrete win con versus primarily rely on Twister loops was a much more relevant conversation in the PST style decks. But it's a really good thing to, now that we have hindsight to consider, and now that we have pieces like this to start thinking about the core of that more, for if that comes up again in the future, how are we going to tune our decks based on our metas? So the more information we can have looking at past and recent past metas, the easier it's going to be to modify decks for future metas that resemble them. And so I really like discussions like this.
There are, I think it's a really good insight into slot efficiency and card quality and just general things to consider when you're building a deck and thinking about what this deck is going to do. Because there's a lot of people that are focused on having a quote-unquote hard outlet. And you see a lot of people asking, like, why don't you have Laboratory Maniac to win after you've drawn your deck in Rashmi? Or, when you take infinite turns, like, what are you doing there? Well, you just, attack them down over infinite turns. Even in Brago, I've gotten people ask me, why don't I run, a harder outlet than just Venser and bouncing everyone's permanents? Or having everybody stack all their permanents, right?
Yeah.
I'm perfectly content to sit there and attack for 20 turns while no one has any permanents. in Sub-Wallet even. There's been people talking about playing Walking Ballista or something like that as an outlet for infinite mana. And ultimately, it does come down to this, this all-important idea of slot efficiency and card quality.
Yeah, and it's kind of everything you're saying right there is actually really relevant to at least my Tasigur build, because I have an Aetherflux Reservoir in there.
Oh, you vomit on card quality.
I have Aetherflux Reservoir in there, but the hilarious part about it is it's not because it's a win con, it's because I lose too much life and I need to stabilize somehow. And that you're spending a ton of you're trading cards for life in a lot of ways. Like, it is very common just to, dome yourself for 32 with Sylvan Library because you need to. And then you have to somehow get back into the game out of that and not die to Tymna Beats. So it's a real challenge at times to then say, well, it's not an outlet. It can be an outlet, but it's actually just there so you don't die. So some people have put in Cryptghast instead because they didn't want to use that and just use it for the extort triggers and the mana ramp. Shout outs to Bloody Wednesday on that one. And then other people are dumping in consult lines into Tasigur, which I'm not a fan. It's not really what okay, all right, I can understand that. But
Bug Consult is so fucking efficient. It's so good.
I haven't really tried it. I will have to give it a shot. See how it goes.
You actually might not even have to, because we might be doing something where I'm doing it myself, and that might.
Is that Volrath?
Volrath, the Shape Stealer,
the 7/7 that just beats people in the face. Really merciless.
7/5. 7/5. Excuse you.
Okay, all right. That hurts a little bit, but
yeah. Definitely slapped you a couple of times with that a few days ago. All right, that's enough about the WinCons article. Take a look. It's a good read.
Yes.
Next up, Maynard, did you catch any of that MTG Nexus survey that Sheldon was engaging with?
Yeah, it definitely feels like it was quite a while ago. But
that's because it really does.
It does. It was at the It was the end of July and beginning of August, and so that's kind of on the edge of when we were going to be covering stuff. But I don't know, did you look at the results at all for any of these questions? Some of them were really interesting.
Let me see if I can pull it up. I do remember. Yeah, okay, I remember these.
So, like, which of these banned cards do you think should be unbanned? And the one that people wanted unbanned the most was Coalition Victory.
Well, they just gave us a new one, so
yeah. That is true. That is actually very true. We just got a free one, so that's actually easier to cast. It's a little harder to push off, but yeah. And then you want
any of you out there? Yeah, that one cracked me up. Yes. Literally, any of you who voted for balance?
You do not know this game.
No. No. Just, if I could take those votes away from you, I would try. Yeah. Balance should not be legal in any format. Balance should never have been printed. Balance is Scheherazade levels of not okay. No. Just no. Stop.
Yes.
Don't play with it. Don't think anybody should play with it. That card, like the memory of that card, should be gone. No.
It's so broken.
It's just,
yeah.
I got a foil in vintage Judge promo in my my Vault Still deck.
Nice.
Card is not okay.
Let's look at the next one. Which of these legal cards do you think should be banned?
Oh, there are some wild answers on that.
37% said Flash. A lot of people said Psych Rift, Winter Orb.
No surprise there.
Protean Hulk. They just unbanned it. I mean, 2 years ago almost. What? No, actually, almost 3 years ago.
3, yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah. People are so... Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale. Really? Enough people play against that it's that big of a pain? Okay.
I mean, I think it should be banned on principle. But that's because if Perceived Barrier to Entry banned library at $300, then Tabernacle at $2K is probably not okay.
That's true.
There's a lot of people who disagree with me, but I would actually like to see Gilded Drake, everybody's Lord and Savior Gilded Drake, and Mystic Remora, maybe one.
I'm perfectly on board with a Remora ban. That card is not balanced for our format. Gilded Drake's curious. I've actually never thought about that. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
I guess anyone who knows me might know that I like to play a lot of these 4-mana value engine commanders. Like Rashmi and Brago, and I'm on Yidris right now.
And Gilded Drake just destroys you.
Gilded Drake kind of punishes you for playing a higher CMC commander, and it punishes you for relying on your commander, which are two things that I would like to see more of. Relying on your commander to be part of your game plan, just in EDH in general, really, and being able to play, commanders that cost more than 3 mana.
So it's the Caracas issue, basically.
Yeah, somewhere in there. I mean, it's such an auto-include nowadays that, you will see 3 Gilded Drakes thrown around in the same game, and it starts to get a little annoying.
Guess how many Gilded Drakes I've included in my decks in the past 3 years?
0?
I'm going to say 0.
Yeah. I don't think I've played a single... okay, maybe I've played 1 or 2 stream games, but not a single deck I've maintained has ever had a Gilded Drake in it.
Every blue deck I have built has a Gilded Drake, because there are so many cards that it steals that are just backbreaking, and I'm right there with you. Niv Perun, oh my gosh.
That dude gets draked so hard.
Yes, to the point where I'm actively considering both Teleria West and Homeward Path just for that. It is that bad of an issue.
I'm going to be very upfront with you. Your mana base cannot support another colorless land.
Oh, I know. That's why it's hard.
Your mana base can't support the Ancient Tomb you play.
Yeah.
I've watched that Ancient Tomb shaft you on casting Niv so many times.
There is consideration for putting Blood Moon in the deck just to fix for red. It's that big of an issue at times.
What? Oh, all right. Yeah. Let's move on. That was some good discussion on the Nexus survey. That thing was wild. Cameron, do you have a link to the results that you can post in chat?
Yes, I do. I will post it, and it is an awesome Google form, so you get to look at these amazing quality graphs that don't show everything. So it's great.
Next up, we are going to talk about our mulligans of... Wait, no, that's not where we're at. Just kidding.
Wow, Dan.
My mouse auto-scroll, don't judge me. New stuff. We're talking about new stuff. Brawl decks. Brawl got precons, guys. And in, honestly, a not too unexpected fashion, they made the print run minute, because Brawl is a stupid format that no one plays. But they also wanted to sell their Brawl decks, so they included such great standard legal cards like Command Tower with new art, and also a rock that references the command zone and power creeps literally everything except Grim Monolith to high hell.
Yeah.
So that people would buy them. And surprise, the Signet alone is pre-ordering for $40.
Yeah.
So that's
out, right? So
yeah,
still $30 in print.
Yeah. They released a statement saying that they recognize that they did not properly print this deck, and reprints will happen, so the print run is increasing. If you are being asked to pay $40 for an Arcane Signet or just the deck, don't. That's not the price. That's not the value. It's not going to happen. Arcane Signets are going to be $10 or less in 2 months, probably.
Yeah.
Don't pay more than actual MSRP, $20, $25 for the precon.
Yeah.
That being said, the precons look pretty sweet.
The Esper one's got Smothering Tithe in it, which is pretty solid. And if you think it's Signets at $10 and Tithe's still at $10, that's quite a bit of your value back just on its own. It's really solid.
And that's ignoring that Alayla is potentially standard playable, a dope-ass commander on her own for casual, and there's a Watery Grave in the deck too.
Oh yeah, there's a shock in there. That's pretty good value.
That Esper one's actually pretty sweet. The Kool-Aid deck is also nice because Kool-Aid himself is somewhere between like Fringe and something plus or minus Fringe. I don't know exactly where Kool-Aid will settle, but I think he has viability.
Yeah, he's cool, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Brawl decks and print runs.
Yeah. Now, collector boosters packs. Have you guys seen these at all?
Yeah. Have you seen the collector bundle?
I haven't seen the bundle.
Oh man, they debuted it today. $450 for 16 packs, a 3x3 cutout of a foil rare sheet, and like a full art Garrick reforged or whatever the new Garrick is clear to the Veil Curse. It's like a pile of stuff that nobody wants for $450. It might be the most insane product offering they've ever sold. This thing looks miles worse than a Mythic Edition.
Yeah.
Priced double that. Like, this might be the dumbest product I've ever seen out of WotC.
I have no
idea who this target audience is. It's phenomenally bad. Right, but that's 16 collector boosters, MSRP 400. There's no way the contents of collector boosters maintain value near the MSRP because of the availability. Like, foils, rares, and mythics are going to be so cheap. Charlie, you better not buy 6 of those deluxe booster box. I'm going to slap you in the face with all of your foil 3x3 printouts of a uncut sheet.
You're going to buy a case of those for $2,400? Yeah.
Charlie's a baller. That dude rolls.
Okay. All right. You got it. It's your money. To quote Charlie, no, they look terrible. Okay, I approve.
All right, but let's have a thought exercise briefly. Maynard, describe in one paragraph or less who you think Wizards is targeting with this product.
I think they aren't really making a conscious decision here. I think there's something going on between the design team, the people that make the card art, the marketing team, and business end, handling the financials. That it's just churning out some somebody out there just saying, "Hey, let's just put a stupid number on this, and people are gonna buy it."
Yeah, I agree on that. I think they are testing the water for premium product, and that's what they've been doing with the Mythic Edition. And they have done it in the past with the San Diego Comic-Con sets. And then they did it with so the Return to Ravnica, or sorry, the last Ravnica, War of the Spark Mythic Edition was just like bonkers. That Mythic Edition alone, just the Planeswalkers, was worth like, I think it's still worth over $1,200 on Planeswalkers alone.
No, nowhere near that anymore.
It dropped. Okay.
Approximate value: Jace is like $250, Ugin's like $120. Everything else is between like $30 and $60. It's probably still around like $400 to $500 in Planeswalkers after they've been shredded, which is still phenomenal. Like, the Jace alone is the value of the entire box.
But then, like, this year, the San Diego Comic-Con, in previous years, you couldn't even refresh the page and order them because they'd be sold out in 5 minutes. This year, I didn't even know they were on sale, and I looked, and they were still in stock 5 hours later. So
I think you had to queue to buy them, right?
It still said they were in stock. You could go. I mean, so they might have printed more, or they might have just had less demand than they were expecting.
Those are the sweet, like, blackout relief planar god pharaoh things, right? Those things looked awesome. I really want that black one for my Bantu, for my Mirren deck.
But I think what's happening is somebody is saying make a premium product, but they're not looking at the larger picture of the secondary market value, Whereas things like that Planeswalker deck, they were printing some of the best walkers ever, and that sold out almost instantly. Whereas this San Diego Comic-Con, it had standard playable cards, and that was it. And you could still buy it several hours later. And so they're making this premium product, and I just think that there is somebody in marketing saying, make this thing that's going to cost a lot and people are going to buy it because it's premium, and they don't realize that there's no real secondary value on these things.
Yeah, outside I can't add to that. I think you two nailed it. This is some kind of corporate bullshit push to try and get more direct sales, which makes sense with the way they've started formatting how high-end stuff works, pulling expeditions out of or pulling masterpieces out of packs, putting them into super upcharged stuff, all that nonsense. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to things that I like instead of hate. Let's talk about Throne of Eldraine. This set looks fucking fantastic in every angle I can look at it from. I am so excited by this set.
Yeah.
Cameron, what do you think about the flavor?
It is like a lot of the Anglo-Saxon fairy tales. Like, they keep throwing in new things, and they're also pulling in things from just like stories I wasn't so familiar with. So I'm actually getting a fun time of going and researching fairy tale stories. I like modern retellings of stories, and one of the things that, like, well, yeah, it's Disney the set, million.
It's half Disney, half Camelot.
But at the same time, Disney stories are almost entirely based off of older stories. I mean, so like Frozen is the Ice Queen from Russian fairy tales that moved over into English fairy tales. Arthurian legend is all sorts of Anglo-Saxon, and you got a lot of fun things going on here.
Like the monkey's paw.
Yeah, I love the flavor. Like, this is, if there was a fairy tale that I enjoy the most, it is the entirety of Arthur and the riffs that come off of Arthur. How many things have been spawned by Arthurian legend? I mean, like, you have hundreds of written stories, but then you also have stuff like Fate Stay Night, or all the Fate line that has Arthur, has Saber, and it's like, what is this? Oh, that's Excalibur, and this was from Camelot. Just the random takes on it. It's great. I love it. And the fact that whenever anybody brings in Arthur, it adds like so much additional room for more interesting things. Like, if they mention Arthur, well, then they have to have Excalibur. There's also Merlin. Where is Merlin in this story? And it just opens up a bunch of possibilities that I always like. Maynard, what about you?
I think it's great. I think the design's fun. I kind of love, card names like Happily Ever After and Once Upon a
Yeah, Once Upon a Time. Sorry, can I interject? That is the best translation of a very nebulous concept to a card I have ever seen. I think that card is literally perfect.
What is Once Upon a Time? I don't remember that one.
Yeah, that's the green one that like finds a land or creature from the top of the top 5 cards of your deck, and it's free.
One. Yeah.
If you start the game with it, right?
Literally perfect. Literally perfect.
Yeah. Also, I have a hard time following, Magic in too carefully.
Mm-hmm.
I started playing like 7 or 8 years ago, and after the first 2 or 3 years, it's kind of hard to keep up with all the new sets and spoilers. But this is definitely one of those sets that's a little more memorable and catches your eye a lot more.
Yeah, I agree. It feels similar to the spoiler season. The last spoiler season I thought they did that really felt good was the Eldritch Moon Shadows over Innistrad spoiler season, because everyone knew it was Emrakul. But the entire lead up, no one assumed it would be Emrakul. Like, I don't know. It felt like things were devolving into the Eldritch horror in the community because people were getting so fucking hung up on, is it Marit Lage? And all this discussion nonsense surrounding, like, obviously it's Emrakul. We all know it's Emrakul, but no one was quite sure until the very end. Like, I thought that was fantastically handled. This set has knocked it out of the park. I have been so impressed by it.
Mm-hmm. Now,
dripping with flavor.
Were you impressed by that glass casket?
I was less than impressed by that glass casket. I don't like. They talked for a little. I swear I'm not like going crazy and forgetting something. They definitely talked for a couple years there about how they were trying to re-emphasize the divide between artifacts and enchantments. Artifacts are things that you can do stuff with. They are typically colorless. They don't have to be, but they don't just sit there. Artifacts are active objects. Enchantments are more nebulous magic. They're static and they're enduring, but they're not a tangible thing you can hold on to. Why do we have to have two card types do the same things mechanically if there's no distinction besides that black can arguably interact with one of them sometimes and red can interact with the other, but they do the same thing, but they're different, but they're not. But like, it doesn't make sense to me. And even the best, I read a lot of Maro's stuff on artifacts and enchantments after the fact, and it still does not make sense to me. I do not grok why artifacts and enchantments should share any mechanical space or much mechanical space and still maintain two distinct card types not interacted with by the color pie equally. Does not compute.
Any thoughts on that, Maynard?
It's fair. It's not it's kind of, for me, it's far from the most questionable things that design has done in their time.
Sure.
I tend to be kind of critical of Magic design a lot of the time. So yeah, it's definitely you couldn't have thought of anything else to do with the card, but whatever.
So yeah. I appreciate it as an expansion of what artifacts can do when they are colored. And I think that what might be an explanation of it from the colored aspect of it, it is nebulous magic from an enchantment that is being replicated by a machine. So if you look at Future Sight versus Bolas's Citadel, you have an enchantment that lets you play things off the top of your library, and then you have an artifact machine that lets you play things off the top of your library. Minorly different. You have Spider Silk or Journey to Nowhere, and now you have a machine that has been made to do that. And it also has to be using the same color of mana in order to do that. I appreciate that from a flavor perspective. But I don't like them getting so close, but I think that this is an expansion on what they can do with artifacts in order to not make them broke. In order to not have Kaladesh again. I appreciate this aspect of it.
Yeah, from a Melvin perspective, I have no problems with that in the strictest sense. It's just the tiny sliver of Vorthos in me doesn't quite understand it. That being said, it isn't the most questionable thing they've even done in the set in terms of that. Like, that Mythic Fairy, come on now, guys.
Yeah.
What? That one's bad.
Yeah, let's not discuss that, because that makes my heart hurt. Instead, let's talk about the phenomenal success of the Command Zone in Vegas, how it translated to the Command Zone being added to every single Magic Fest the rest of the year, and then they built the Command Fest, 2 Command Fests, 3, multiple Command Fests out of nowhere. Not okay with the timing that they gave us on those, but I appreciate the effort. Maynard, are you planning on attending any Command Fest events this year?
Probably not this year, but I'll keep it on my.
Okay.
So you're saying that 1 month isn't enough time to plan a cross-country trip that's going to cost you a lot of money?
I'm not going to have any more vacation days this year, so. I got planned out.
Yeah. So I'm lucky enough to be within busing distance or Ubering distance of the Seattle one. So expect to see me there, which would be great. But Dan, I think you are a little far from both the Seattle and the Chicago. Not as far from the DC one, but that's still a bit of a drive.
Yeah, it's like 6.5 hours, and I'm also like flat broke, so problems. But yeah, I'm not very close to any of them.
Yeah, Well, if you guys are near Seattle during the first week in November, we actually have a pretty solid CEDH crowd. So definitely stop on by. I will be in the command zone for the majority of those days.
Wow, spoilers, Cameron. We aren't talking about upcoming events we're attending yet.
Yeah, but I'm excited to see what the Command Fest actually will be.
Yeah, they haven't released like any details about it yet.
Except that getting into the command zone is like $50 a day or $125 for 3 days.
Getting into the command zone at the Command Fest.
Yes.
That's a head scratcher there for you. An entire Commander convention with a gated command zone.
They do have other tables, but those are going to be for the possibly firing commander events such as two-headed giant commander or commander pods. I don't think those are going to fire myself very much.
It's probably just going to be a whole pile of people playing commanders. Some of them have things around their neck.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some audience topics. Every time we do a month in review podcast, we poll some audience. The specific audience depends on the mood we're in, for some questions to discuss as a group. This time we pulled a few that we are going to talk about with Maynard, obviously, because he's the one here to talk about them with us. So first, Maynard, you talked a lot about how powerful the consult packages and why that is something that gets utilized a lot. Could you speak more to how you prepare to answer packages like consult or like flash that are very incredibly efficient enablers?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
And I'm going to make it even more complicated. If you could discuss briefly preparation in deck construction as well as in gameplay setup.
Okay, well, Flash is a little more clear, right? There are clear cards that stop Flash Hulk. There's, graph cages, even mind sensors, even the new card. I got spoiled today. Yeah, the fairy.
Lips Magoo.
So having those in play do help, but you can't get too comfortable, right? You have to start figuring out how you're gonna start going for the win, because they will grind out cards. They will find their abrupt decays, their bounce spells, their nature claim, and they're going to remove that one or two permanents that are stopping them and go off from there. So don't get too comfy. Don't give them all the time in the world. See if you can attack their card advantage. It would help. As for consultation, consultation decks do tend to be very reliant on having higher amounts of mana, higher amounts of interaction, and higher amounts of card draw. So a lot of these decks are starting to pack Ristic Study. Even some weird card engines out there like Compost. But what you want to do, right, is don't just let them sit there forever, build up, a constant full grip with like sculpting 4 counter spells in there ad nauseum, or Ladman Consult with triple backup, because that will happen. If you let them, that will happen. And there's not a ton you can do against it. So don't just let that Ristic Study sit and play. Don't let it just resolve when there might not be anything else to use your counter magic on. You might have Swan Song in hand and you see that Ristic Study go down, counter it. Maybe Mystic Remora sat in play for a turn or two already, but they're still going to pay for it, so use your Nature's Claim that you drew. Or, see if you can stop their commander from enabling whatever card advantage. Oh, yes, I am. So yeah, do think about how they're building towards that win, their cards, their mana, and see if you can attack it, right? I actually do think that Stax, which might be into the next topic, but mana denial or console decks are partly good because no one really tries to play mana denial. If you start denying them their lands, which, their mana is going to cut down from being able to take an 8 mana turn or a 9 mana turn to a 3 mana turn in general. And those console decks do go for like 8 mana turns when they try to go off.
Yeah, playing Jace Maniac plus consult with backup is not trivial.
Oh yeah.
So if I can attempt to very, very overly succinctly summarize, your preparation for both of these more or less boils down to be proactive about your game plan.
Be proactive about your game plan and don't ignore the power of card draw engines coming from your opponents. Too many people are sort of content to let Tim draw 3 cards every turn and then a Dark Confidant stick on the board along with another heuristic study or a Remora that's just getting paid for.
Mm-hmm.
So advance your game plan and attack their resources.
That's kind of changed
especially
recently.
their
just because for a really long time, you were really not focused on the card advantage sources as much. You were holding up all of your interaction for the actual win. And I mean, as Maynard was saying, the card draw actually is a key part in fueling that win. And so you're having to step it forward a bit more. Yeah, that's pretty solid.
I like it. A swan song on heuristic study is like dazing a ponder.
Yeah, and I'm even starting to think about making more deck building concessions to start answering those card draw engines, like the Sylvan libraries, by putting in more actual removal and not just bounce.
That is something I've been personally doing a lot. I've trimmed back. I run almost no bounce. I'll play like maybe 1 bounce spell besides Cyclonic Rift, if that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been drastically trimming on my counter spells that are not good against real cards in addition to just counter spells. So like Dispels and similar are starting to come out, and I'm starting to play more hard removal for creatures or for permanents that are not creatures, just to interact more on the board while still maintaining the like peak stack interaction cards, which is personally why I'm super excited about Drown in the Loch, because it fits the concept of what I've been doing with my interaction suite perfectly. It is a counterspell murder for the easiest mana I could possibly spend on it. Basically, it's just beautiful. So in that same vein, I've been tuning all of my decks very aggressively towards that. I don't think I've played Delay or Dispel in a month or two because they've just been so bad in this very permanent heavy and board heavy meta that I've been playing in personally, and that it sure seemed like everyone else was too from Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads into our next topic. When is playing Stax a good idea? Personally, I would say never. Move on. But not everyone is as boring as me. Cameron, would you like to jump in on this one to start?
Well, there is a little cycle that happens in CEDH where you have Stax losing to Control, and Control losing to Combo, and Combo losing to Stax. So you just kind of figure out what the meta is, and when it gets really heavy on the combo side, where people don't care about they're not worrying about their mana, well, a back to basics really will kill them. Back to basics and a Pyroclasm pretty much shuts down pretty much every Thrasios deck right now. And so they're stuck with what they have untapped or any new lands they play. And if they're not drawing cards, well, then they're not doing anything. And so you can kind of do that little loop and figure out what your meta is. And if everybody's playing hard combo, well, 1 player playing Stax won't be the best, but maybe 2. It's kind of a thing where it's a little parasitic. More Stax players makes the Stax better just because you could deploy more things. Maynard, what's your take on it?
Stax is one of those strategies that's, simultaneously worse than you think and better than you think.
Yeah.
That sums it up so well.
As someone that plays Brago, right, a deck from maybe 2016 or before that, that deck, can still take games. I think maybe something that Stax players don't think about is play to your politics. You tend to be one of the weaker decks at the table. There tend to be bigger threats going around, like Flash Hulk. Have someone help you protect your rest in peace, your graph diggers. Because tell them that if they don't, that Flash player literally just tutored, right? Literally just tutored, has a counter to protect their Flash, probably, has a lot of cards in hand, they probably will win when you try to overload that Cyclonic Rift, or run some other play that removal for your Rest in Peace that they want to get more value out of cast or something. And use that politics to kind of let your own self run away with the game, right? Shift attention away from what you're doing that progresses you towards your own win, and do be thinking about progressing towards your own win. Shift attention away from that, because that those other combo players are still a big threat, right? Don't forget about them. Try to catch people with their pants down, because they're going to start greeding to get around your sacks. They're going to start playing real greedy. They're going to tap out for some form of ramp or card draw or something, and you can abuse that play pattern by taking that time to catch them with their pants down and jamming your own win.
I like it. I think that is a very good description.
And that's pretty much the exact situation that I last lost to Cobble on when he was on Uruk Stax. Because I was the guy playing control, and I was before Cobble in the turn rotation, and so even though I was bouncing lands to my hand, it's like, that's a flash, I've got to counter it, otherwise I'm just dead. It hurt. But
all right, with Cameron's pain in the rearview mirror, let's go on to our last audience topic. So for this one, we're gonna do like two questions with it. One's easy to answer, the other one's a little more difficult to answer. The starter question is, what is your favorite non-cEDH commander? And second, what cards would have to be printed or removed from the format to make them cEDH viable? Maynard, why don't you start us off with this one?
One of my favorite decks is, I play a mid-power to ready deck. It focuses a lot on ramp, and just creating so many putting a ton of artifacts in play and finding some free pieces. Well, I would really like. So cEDH versions will tend to be Stax versions, right? That sort of just kind of try to lock down the board with mana denial and some other weird hate pieces. But what I would like to see is Red get more access to ways of finding its artifacts. Red kind of has been shafted on the whole tutor thing for a long time, and artifacts are perfectly, squarely in Red's color pie. So, maybe they need to kind of forget about never giving Red tutors. Not bad.
We've started getting some more recently. Goblin Engineer is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I want to see more of that. That's great.
Yeah, I agree. If we saw anything resembling a critical density of Goblin Engineers that could make an early Possessed Portal even remotely consistent, I would actually start to be scared of Duretti. Because Duretti's games where Duretti does the thing are really, really disgustingly strong. It's like, I don't know, it feels a lot like the Narset problem to me. When they do their thing, it's almost unbeatable, but they just don't get to do it very much because consistency is hard. Oh, did we lose Maynard?
Not sure what's going on.
All right, well, while Cameron is fixing that, I will go into my answer. Shoot, I actually hadn't thought of one. That was sloppy of me. Right now, I guess my favorite non-cEDH commander is Marwyn. I've been really enjoying the Elf Ball deck I've put together for him and playing that a lot. Amusingly, not a whole lot needs to change for a Marwyn Brostorm kind of deck to be borderline viable, because the concept of the deck isn't terribly different from just Selvala Brostorm, which is a perfectly viable deck, if not like the peak of performance right now. So there's not honestly a whole lot that would have to change. You just need to like gimp the best decks a bit, make life totals 30 or something, and let me be able to pressure Nos decks better, and I don't know, maybe a couple of better tutors. Either way, not too far off, which is kind of nice now that I'm thinking about it. Maybe I picked a cop-out answer. Cameron, are you in a spot where you can answer?
Yeah. So picking my favorite deck is actually kind of hard, or my favorite commander. I've had 8.5 Tails for the longest time, and I mean it's mono white, so there's so much stuff that needs to get into the mono white in order for it to be viable for competitive EDH. If I was to give a reasonable answer, probably be Afara then at that point. And it would be dealing with some of the same issues the white has. It's something where white doesn't have the mana ramp, and it doesn't have the card advantage to actually stay in the game. And so it needs some sort of way. I don't think removing cards, because you have to remove so many cards. You'd have to remove whole portions of the color wheel in order to make white viable. You really need to give it new functionality. Unfortunately, Maynard, his video is gone. We just have an M for him. But are you still with us in spirit? Okay.
Not sure what's going on.
All right.
Cool.
That's fine.
Well, we're going to go ahead and close down that topic.
Mm-hmm. And we will
Moving on. We have Mulligan of the Day. This is where we take our guest participants' deck that they pick, simulate a pod composition, and then discuss mulligan decisions as they would happen in a game. So for this one, we are discussing Maynard's Yidris deck. Cameron, do you want to throw a link in chat for everybody?
Yeah, I'll get that real quick.
Maynard, what is the pod that we ended up on for this?
I don't think we actually talked about that. So let's make one really quick.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to just say it. We got the die roll.
We won?
We are Yidris going first.
All right.
Second, we have CST. Third, we have Food Chain First Sliver. And fourth, we have Elsha.
What is Elsha? What does she do? What's
Cameron,
the deck?
Please.
She's a future sight in blue, white, red.
Yeah, I know, but what is the deck around her? I haven't actually looked at the CEDH deck for her. Is it turns? Is it?
It's kind of a mishmash of control, and then basically you combo into Sensei's Divining Top and a cost reducer. That's one of the main combos you'll see.
Okay.
That's the one I've seen the most. Yeah, Flash plays a build of it that he's been working on pretty hard.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you remember that, Cameron? He was in the game playing Elsha, doing the exact thing. He won that game, didn't he?
Yes, he did, but I didn't know if that was like a standard list or not. But yeah.
As standard as Jeskai Commander that's like a month old can be, I guess.
Makes sense. All right, so we're going first, then Thrasios, then First Sliver, then Elsha. Let's take a look at what our opening hand might be and see how we would mulligan this. We've got Tropical Island, Arbor Elf, Elves of Deep Shadow, Dispel, Demonic Tutor, Mana Vault, and a Chain of Vapor. Maynard, you know this deck. How would you handle this hand?
This looks decent. It's kind of awkward having two elves in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your land is only producing blue-black, but you do have this Elves of Deep Shadow to help you get to the green mana. Blue-green. Yeah. And you have the Elves of Deep Shadow to help you get to the black mana.
Mm-hmm.
No red source, but that's not a huge deal since it is a bug-based deck. It's going to keep you after Commander for a little bit, but maybe that's all right. You have this Demonic Tutor, which could find something useful. Maybe a Sylvan Library, maybe Carpet of Flowers, maybe Ristic Remora, depending on what you see everyone else opening up with.
Mm-hmm.
So I would lean towards keeping this, despite there only being one land, and maybe the colors might not be perfect.
Yeah, so my take is that I don't like if the Mana Vault or one of the or the Arbor Elf was a land, I would be much more on this. But I could see from my experience, this is kind of a questionable keep where it's like, all right, you throw out a Tropical Island, you throw out Elves of Deep Shadow, and then you're just going at having summoning sick lands for the rest of the game. That's what it feels like. But Yeah, Dan, what are your thoughts on this?
It's so close, right?
Yeah,
you
it
draw
is
a
very
single
close.
land, and this hand is phenomenal. But if you don't draw a single land, you just like I don't know how you win. This is so slow.
Well,
Going first, I think I would keep it just because I don't know. Like I hate it, but it could be so good. And I'm a risk taker, and we're going first, and we're after a deck that's going to be spending their first 2 turns advancing their interaction or their ramp without dorks. I don't know. I think I keep it, but it's so close.
So if we have a land in the first 2 cards, we can Trop Island, Elves of Deep Shadow, and then turn to Demonic Tutor into a Remora.
Yeah, that would be what I would be considering, I think.
That what Maynard has said, that's like the line that I would see would be the best payoff for this deck. And we happen to know yeah, we happen to know the top card's a Watery Grave, so Never Punished followed by a Brainstorm. So I think we're good. Why don't we do another and just see what we pull up? And we've got Mystical Tutor, Limdol's Vault, Imperial Seal, Force of Will, Laboratory Maniac, Wooded Foothills, and a Sensei's Defining Top. Maynard, what are your thoughts?
I think you can do better than this hand. You do have the turn on Imp Seal, which can get you, the best card in your deck in that situation. But the problem is the best card in your deck in that situation isn't that good. You're still going to be stuck on one land if you don't hit your land on your first draw. You don't really have ramp outside of whatever you might tutor for. If this is your first 7, I'd definitely look at mulliganing it.
Yeah,
probably also mulligan on this. Yeah,
I was gonna say I'm throwing it back if it's my second 7 too. I think this hand is hot garbage.
Here is our second 7.
Not great. You do have the Brainstorm plus fetch.
Yeah, Brainstorm
so
fetch.
You can set that up.
Yeah, I keep it on that just because getting the Flex Reservoir out of the deck is okay, and
then you probably take out the Dramatic Reverse from your hand. Depends on what you Brainstorm into.
Yeah. Well, we'd say this is second 7, so we'd get to keep all of these guys.
Yeah, I'm talking about when you actually might play the deck.
Yeah. Brainstorm those 2 away.
Well, it depends on what you draw. You have a couple of things. It's all contextual. But the Brainstorm fetch makes this hand much more attractive to me, especially if it's setting up to be a grindy game, which it very likely is with those 3 decks. So having 3 guaranteed land drops with the likelihood of hitting 4 is also something that I would personally be valuing.
Yeah. And if you do feel like you need a mulligan in this hand, I think that, that's fairly defensible, especially with the London Mull making mulligans to 6 even better than they were.
I definitely agree on that. And if we did mulligan that, why don't we take a look?
Yeah, for those of you who did mulligan it, what do you get?
Oh.
Tarnished Citadel, Adnaz, Ponder, Pyroblast, Mystic Remora, Exotic Orchard, and a Noxious Revival, and we're putting 1 to the bottom. I think we're putting Revival to the bottom.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I'd almost consider putting Ponder to the bottom, because if this game gets to be disgusting, you can Noxious Revival your Remora back, and that's kind of cute.
Now, my plan for this game might actually not to be leading on Remora. I might slow roll the Remora till turn 2.
What do you think?
And lead with Ponder.
Yeah, I could see that, especially. I mean, so the thing is if you turn 1 Remora and they misstep that, you are dead. Like you have nothing until you draw lands for Adnaz. I mean,
no, you just Noxious Revival it back. That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
Noxious Revival lets you be more aggressive with this hand.
For me, I think Remora without like extra ramp in the hand, right, like a Mox or something, is going to lock you into paying for that Remora.
Yeah.
And if your opponent's lead on Dorks or anything else, or just play on go, you are kind of in an awkward position where you're not really doing anything else other than paying for Remora. Now, if you lead on land Ponder, you find something nice, maybe a Dork, something like that. You go turn to Remora and another 1-drop, a Dork, something else. And you are developing your board. You're ramping your mana up, and that's going to help you find what you need to start getting to that ad nauseum.
So you bought him the Noxious or the Blast?
I bought him the Noxious.
Okay, interesting. That makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been on the slam a turn 1 Remora, and then literally all you're doing is paying for Remora for the rest of the game. And you have a ton of 2-drops in your hand, but you can never get 2 mana to cast your signets or your talismans. I like that. I kind of like that plan, even though you're going to miss out on the initial burst of cards. You'll be able to more easily keep Remora for longer. Yeah, I like that.
I'm slam dunking the stupid aggressive Remora still. Not talked me out of it.
All right. Well, I think that will cover us on our mulligan of the day. Let's look at upcoming events.
I like that not a single one of those was a super easy snap keep.
Yeah.
We've had some in the past where it was like, oh, this is like no interaction or mana, with like those were actually things to discuss, which I appreciate.
Yeah. Well, as we talked about earlier, Command Fest Seattle, I'll be at. Dan, are you going to be doing SCG Con in the wintertime?
That is still my plan.
Okay.
It's probably just going to be like me and Will going up, getting a hotel room for a night. But that is still my plan.
Cool. And for those of you who are not aware, Spike Feeders, they have their 1-year anniversary of content creation coming up here, I think next week. And they're doing some stuff throughout the week to have fun.
Yeah, I saw they're taking the walls down and making all of their patron exclusive chats publicly visible.
For like a week,
you can see some of the shenanigans that they get up to and all their like weird exclusive channels that you can't see if you're a poor person like me.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of anniversaries, I think there's another one coming up. We have our 3-year anniversary coming up in a couple months.
We do. It's in December. We
should probably figure out what we're doing about that.
We've talked about it a little bit. It's a good idea. We might have some giveaways going on, but more info about that later.
They're going to be a 24-hour stream.
24 is generous, but maybe like 8 to 10.
We've done a 12. We could do a 12.
I don't want to do. Well, I guess there's more of us now. So, we should probably, now that we're on stream, also publicly announce we have a new lab maniac.
Yeah.
Lurker. You may have heard of him. It's Lurker.
Yeah.
He was here, just 3 months ago? 4 months ago? Something like that. But yeah, so we are now going to have additional options for recording. So we are working actively to get more content out to you all more consistently. We know that has been a challenge for us in the past. We're working to fix it actively.
Yes. And that includes...
on that note, I would like to say it is fantastic to see, this stream and all the other content that the community has been putting out. We've got so many people out here streaming, recording videos, writing stuff up. And I just remember one year ago even. Every day you'd see somebody asking, where can I find more content? I watched everything on YouTube already. And it is fantastic to see people streaming every, weekly streams from Scotty and the Mystic Remoras, and the Reflecting Pool's a new one, I think. Playing, and all these new names that have almost seem to come out of the woodworks. And I'm really glad that that call for more content is being answered. And I think it really shows a lot of promise for the CEDH community and where it's headed. Because I think we're going to do some pretty great things.
I
think so too.
Definitely agree. I would say one thing. While we do get a bunch of new things, I would request, please, don't destroy people in their first thing. I know some of us have really high standards, or we get really picky about that's not right, or you shouldn't be doing this. My personal take from me is that I always attempt to say thanks for putting in the effort to make this, and here's some feedback that I have for you. I appreciate that you put the time into it. Next time, here's some resources that can help you out so that you don't get negative comments. And people have I Cameron them in a comment, which is I sit down and I type and I'm trying to write 2 sentences and it's a page and a half.
Common problem for him.
But
real common.
Yes. It's just I too really appreciate the effort, and being somebody who puts a lot of time into making things, I understand how much effort they're going through, and be kind, please.
Yeah, I have my own YouTube channel that I started back when there was that little bit of a drought.
Yeah.
And my content sucks. My video quality, my editing, it takes a lot of work to make something look as good as the Lab Maniacs make it look.
Oh, yeah. It's all Cameron. That dude puts in so much work, it's nuts. Yeah. I'm not positive, but the balance of probability says he has some sort of hyperbolic time chamber. I don't exactly know the specific details on how it works, but he definitely crams in more than 120 hours of work into a week. And
yeah,
also is still alive and functioning somehow. It baffles me.
No.
So, something to think. Well, that was something to think about. So, is there anything the two of you want to plug before we finish?
Well, this Sunday, if you look on the r/competitive EDH subreddit, I posted about it. We are having our first cEDH game night on the PlayEDH Discord. So this Sunday, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're just gonna be hanging out, trying to get a lot of games in. I'll be there. We've got some other great names in the cEDH community that are planning to come. I know people like Pongo from Team Turn 3 has mentioned that he's going to try to make it. Sick Robot from the Into the North podcast. And, there's going to be a lot of people that you might recognize showing up, and you can come in and get games in with them. For those of you who don't know PlayEDH is a Discord server where we play games of Commander over webcam, and it's all power levels, but cEDH included. And so even if you're kind of new to this thing, feel free to stop by the server, and you'll find a link in that Reddit post.
And in chat.
Yeah, and we're happy to help you get set up, answer any questions, concerns you have about playing, and I really would love to just have a great night full of cEDH.
Fun fact, PlayEDH was where the Lab Maniacs got their start. The 4 of us started playing together. Well, the 4 of us, I say, Cameron, Siggy, me, and Simon started playing together back when it was a Skype group still, right?
You forgot Jerry, who disappeared into India.
God, Jerry. Yeah, the third creator of PlayEDH. Yeah, man. I miss that guy sometimes.
Yeah.
He was the one who was smacking with Derevi and Tazri in our first couple of videos, right?
Yep. Yeah.
All right, so show up for that PlayEDH game night for the cEDH game night on PlayEDH.
Yeah, that works.
So that sounds awesome. Cameron, do you have anything you want to plug?
Well, not a ton. Just
well put.
Yeah. I'm a little exhausted. I've been working on getting. Actually, sorry, I do have something to plug. I have been posting that I have been attempting to get in shape on Twitter, and you can find stuff of mine on there. I have been working on losing weight, and since when I started, I'm down 6 pounds.
Nice.
And it's a challenge. But I started it, and Dan, you have attempted to join in on it, I take it, as well. You started posting that?
Yeah, I've been working since probably November. I've been slowly trying to get my weight down, and I am down approximately 30 pounds consistently. And I've been maintaining the weight loss and steadily creeping down, which is pretty pleasing to me. I haven't been this weight in many, many years. It's nice.
Yeah. I lost a lot of weight back in 2016, and then I started night school, and I can track it to within 2 months of me starting night school that I stopped losing weight and started slowly gaining weight.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So I'm back at, well, when I started again, I was back at where I started back when I started in 2016. So I know what it feels like to be 50 pounds lighter, but I really want to know what it feels like to be 100 pounds lighter. So we'll see how this goes.
Good for you. You've got me and Siggy and probably Luke keeping you honest too, since all of us are a little chubbier than we should be at best. So we're all working on getting that down together.
Yeah. And so with that plug, I also started at LabManCam on Twitter. I actually have my own Twitter. You can find me there. And I'm trying to either post about that or post about random Magic related things. And yeah, you'll find my thoughts there. Dan, do you have anything to plug?
Yeah, sure. So while we're on the topic of Twitter, there is a particular tweet that I would love if all of you would go engage with somehow. If you aren't following me and you want to, go follow me and then do like all the like, retweet, comment bullshit on that tweet. But I am trying to get a commentary gig at an upcoming tournament for Argent Saga, which is a new TCG that I did an intro video on a little while ago and have run into real life issues preventing a couple of more gameplays. But I'm trying to get a spot doing commentary for their big old championship that's coming up in a couple of weeks in Richmond. So if you all want to help, feel free to go engage with the tweet in which I'm talking about it and adding Argent Saga, because the more noise I can make, the more they're going to see that I am worth bringing on. So if you want to see me in a dope purple suit with some potentially additional surprises planned, I'm told, go interact with that, and when it starts happening, if I get offered a spot, I will most definitely be shilling that stream. So if you want to see me commenting on a new TCG wearing a purple suit and looking fly, then help me out, and I appreciate it.
All right. Well,
and that's all the self-shilling I got. So I think that takes care of all of our stuff.
That does.
Thank you so much, Maynard, for coming on and talking with us, helping share your insights. It is nice to have someone who plays decks that are so different from the decks I play, because your perspective on a lot of different interactions in the meta and in the game are so different from where I would arrive at, that it is much easier for me to learn a lot from you than it is for me to learn from someone like Luke, let's say, who has almost like our Venn diagram of content is a circle. So I really appreciate the diverse perspective that you offer from the things that I'm more familiar with. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course, and thanks for having me. And thank you guys again for putting the stream together. I think you're doing great things.
Thank you.
It's been really fun. It was a great idea Cameron had. So thank you, Cameron.
Anytime.
And with that, I'm going to close the stream down. It has been a nice, healthy length. Thank you, everyone, for watching. It has been really fun to engage with you again. I did miss streaming like this. These streams, the month in review streams specifically, are always so much fun to do. So look forward to our next one. We have not picked a co-host yet, or a guest, right? I believe.
I don't have anybody yet, so if you want to help
yeah, chime in. Hit me up on Discord. I'll be shopping for our next few, I think, since Cameron picked our last couple. So talk to me. But for now, that's been Maynard, or one of these directions. Cameron's been Cameron. I've been Dan. And this has been the Lab Maniacs Month in Review stream for August and September. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.